Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, my colleague ambassadors. Kim Young-hee 대기자님, it's an honor to speak to the panel which is presided by you. Well, I spent a white night last night, not because of this speech, but because of the soccer game. So please do understand, I am tired and my eyes are reddened. By the way, sometime yesterday, I had a brief encounter with my German colleague, German ambassador, and he was leaving for Seoul to join the Germans for a rally for the game. And I said to him, please be nice to us. And he responded to me, please be nice to us as well. That's what had happened yesterday. This morning, I want to talk about my personal observations on 3 different kinds of optimism. And then I will briefly talk about what to do or what is to be done. The first observation on the optimism. I attended, as a Korean ambassador in Vienna, the first Chief of Missions Conference in 2013 in the previous government. At the time, there was a special lecture done by one of the senior advisors to the president on the North Korean issue. And he said that we shouldn't too much worry about North Korean nuclear issue because in 3 to 5 years' time, something will happen in North Korea. He insinuated a regime collapse, although I didn't check it out. I was flabbergasted. Maybe he might have more intelligence or information. At later stage, I heard something similar said by somebody else here and there in private conversations. And that kind of attitude actually set the tone of our policy toward North Korea. And on, but I will not dwell on it. This is, I believe, an optimistic view or wishful thinking. When I was sitting in the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympic Games in this past February, I was just thinking, what if there had been no candlelight vigils and no early election in May? What if? There would be not the new president, but the outgoing president opening the game. And I was wondering if that was the case, would that be possible that North Korea was attending? I won't answer to my own questions, but miraculously, President Moon seized the opportunity and had the summit in April, paving the way for the summit between the United States and North Korea in June. My second observation on the optimism is this. Optimism, well, on the contrary, cynicism on optimism, criticism on optimism. There have been many, but what drew my attention was the column contributed by Michael Green to Jungang Daily before the summit in Singapore. The title of the column was, "History does not favor the optimists with North Korea." He argued that there is 40% chance of no meeting at all, another 40% chance that talks will break down, and 18% chance of chance that the two leaders will actually pretend to get a breakthrough, and only 2% of chance that it will succeed. Well, as a diplomat and practitioner, I don't like numerical expressions, but more seriously, this argument was not convincing. But even after the summit in Singapore, such criticisms or cynicisms linger on. We hear even nowadays in the United States and in Korea similar views on the future of our talks. Well, I guess, and I hope they are healthy concerns. And I hope that they will transform into confidence. I really hope so. This leads me to my observation on this third point, my own optimism on the future of the process of achieving complete denuclearization and establishing permanent peace. Well, I claim that this is never a Panglossian view, Panglossian optimism grounded by Voltaire. On the contrary, this is a realistic view. Why? For a number of reasons. First, the Panmunjom Declaration and Singapore Statement were signed by the leaders for the first time. And particularly, the Singapore Statement reaffirmed the Panmunjom Declaration, and it's mentioning on the complete denuclearization in a stronger tone. Why? Because it specified North Korea. Accordingly, there is a strong linkage between Panmunjom Declaration and Singapore Statement, which is good. Secondly, we were able to observe a top-down approach, and the leaders are the driving force to overcome outstanding issues and talks, negotiations ahead of us. Some people also pointed out a good personal chemistry among the three leaders. And they are all at their early stage of the governance. In fact, there have been two previous South-North summits, and yet this is the first time this summit, or the result of summit, had been endorsed and supported by the United States. In short, I must say that there was an unprecedented breakthrough through bold, top-level diplomacy. There could be more points for being optimistic, such as we have already entered into a virtuous circle. But I want to leave it to our esteemed panelists. And let me move on to the next issue, that what is to be done, what we should do. Well, although I was provided with some talking points from my colleagues in the ministry, this is absolutely my personal view. So, my dear ambassadors, please do not report back to your capitals. It's my personal view. First, every nation will continue to foster the moment for peace. Countries concerned will focus on implementing Panmunjom Declaration and the Singapore Statement. To that end, the follow-up meetings or follow-up negotiations for denuclearization between the United States and North Korea will continue. We will also take steps toward a peace regime. I know that we cannot achieve them overnight. It will be also not easy, difficult. But I believe it is worth taking. As for other interested parties, you will render your support. I count on your continued support. Secondly, we will agree upon the prioritization of all the issues. Achieving complete denuclearization and establishing permanent peace cannot be preceded by any other issues. Well, I believe each country has some other keen interested issues, but I hope we will have time to raise them in due course. This leads me to share the discussions I observed yesterday at the panel on the Peace and Development Cooperation Nexus. There was an emerging consensus that there is a strong linkage between security and development cooperation, and North Korea cannot be an exception. Well, peace is the precondition, no doubt about that, and sanctions should continue. And yet, we have to be prepared for development cooperation as well, because these are mutually reinforcing forces. Nevertheless, I said at the end of our discussion that we have to be careful. As a cautious diplomat, I said that we prepare, but we will get involved only when conditions are ripe. So I just reiterated what I've said for what should be done. Sorry, but with your indulgence, let me repeat myself and emphasize what I've been thinking about. I'd like to say that mutual trust, concerted efforts, and patience are the three key elements to save us from any possible danger of shipwreck in the course of our future negotiations. Confidence building is a painstaking process, so we better speed up, but we better not rush. While not holding back and doing everything we can, we need to have patience about upcoming results. When I say we, I don't just mean the two Koreas and the United States. I mean all members of the international community. A lasting, sustainable peace is, well, on the Korean Peninsula, is a common good, not for this region, but for all around the world. And as you well know, common goods can be provided and maintained only when all members of the community do their own part and take responsibility. Against this backdrop, again, I count on your continued support to the peace-building process of the Korean Peninsula. I look forward to your discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much.